up. Right. Okay. So, thank you for attending this session, which is the focus going to be on Guardium administration. Actually, our company, our startup company, Context 22, has two focuses. One is to provide assistance through tools and method and procedure to ease the management of Guardium. And the other one is the threat hunting on database activity, which includes things like anomaly detection, time series analysis, outliers, and all those things. I mean, very much security related. And one of the reasons we decided to go with some help on providing some help on Guardium administration is to make sure customers have their data right on and can do a threat hunting on them. So we are very much focused on security, and this is it's a kind of prerequisite to have a healthy Guardium environment to get the data and be able to perform those security activities. And we're going to just kick off with Omar is going to do a quick presentation of Context 22. After that, I'm going to make the technical presentation. Omar may or may not make some conclusion words, and we're going to go through the Q&A. So you can put your questions into the chat, right? And Omar is going to look at them. Even Omar, if you want to interrupt me from time to time when the question is relevant, and I mean, feel free. Okay. Then Omar, sure. It's you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Mohammed, for joining the call. And yes, Context 22 is a company that we started with Frederick, and the main objective is to structure our thought and the experience of Frederick by of managing Guardium. Not only that, not only structuring it, but going to the point directly how to manage and how to administrate the collector. When I said structure, that means there are offers from our company, which are, as Frederick said, one is more professional services. When I say professional services, is more consulting than professional services, because we have tools and we have a lot of training material for people to ease, the management of Guardium. Now, this is one, one element of what we are trying to do. And just for your information, Mohammed, we can support worldwide. We don't have any limitation. It's not because we are in the US that we cannot do anything in Middle East or in Africa and in Europe. There is another element which is a very important element, is the data analysis, or when I say data analysis, it's from the data engineering, which we organize all the data that are coming from the collectors, and we make them talk to interface that's allow you to see and to manage the threats. And when it's to manage the threat, that means we need to put some algorithm over there for predictability. And this is something we will be presenting later on, not on this presentation today, but this is something that we do believe it will be needed everywhere, and it will be facilitate the management of Guardium. Now, please feel free to contact us anytime if you have any issue with Guardium and or any issue with with security of database on the basically on the dam. Okay, and thank you, Frederick.
Okay, thank you, Omar. Okay, for this technical presentation, we're going to do actually 4 points, because I assume that you more or less have seen my videos, or at least part of them. So there is no need to redo the same thing. It's better to try to extract and to make a few points, right? So, so we're going to look first at the challenge people have managing Guardium, right? And because this is really what drives the way to approach the concern. And I think we came up with a list of quite structuring the set of issues. Then after that, we're going to end the buffer usage monitors report in Guardium is absolutely central in this analysis. So it's why we have really a functionality really, I mean, trying to take as much advantage as possible from the buffer usage monitor report. But as you may know, the buffer usage monitor report doesn't provide a breakdown of activity per agent. It cannot do that. So we need to get this information from elsewhere. And this is what we can get from the DAM data. However, the DAM data, which is really the traffic, may be absolutely huge, especially as compared to the buffer usage monitors. And it's a little bit a different endeavor. And if you look at those data just for performance and breakdown of activity per agent, it's a lot of work for a value. It's true, but you can do something else with it, right? And this is where we this functionality can also be used for actually threat hunting, so really security part. And basically you can kill two birds with a same stone, right? With one shot, and by taking advantage of those data. But it's a little bit challenging, and it's why I'm going to present the solution we've got. And so for think it's we can extend this approach to offer a lightweight and small footprint alternative to the aggregators. So let's get into it. So the first thing is to really recognize the importance of the buffer usage monitor report, and the value to enrich it with collector metadata. And so we're going to see how it works. And this is a big part of my videos, right? So we have this diagram which had quite a bit of success actually, and shows some very important variables collected into the buffer usage monitor, and that allow you to really follow the flow of traffic within the collector, and where you may get trouble and issues, and what you need to so the data get in right through the neck, and the traffic on the neck is documented with this variable in the boom, which is called H0 received. Then the data get into the analyzer, which is actually a listener, right? And the analyzer, right, gives you the information about how much data you process, right? And the analyzer has a queue, which is used by the analyzer when it doesn't have enough room and needs to delay the processing of traffic. Since the traffic gets into the parser, right, for which there is no information, but it's okay, right, because it's not really too much necessary in terms of performance, especially because you can see with other stuff, right? So it goes down to the logger, and the logger has a queue as well. And then the queues are monitored with these queue lengths, and this is a good indication of it means I skipped one screen. I'm sorry, son, but I'm going to go back to it. And so this is the structure of the collectors, and with this sniffer process which is inside, right? So let me, I'm sorry, I missed this stuff here. So, because this is a big question, right? Why do Guardium collectors get into stress? And it's because of the nature, hectic nature of the database traffic. So it's not, it's something you have to face, right? It's not something you can decide. You cannot decide of the traffic and the volumes that are thrown at your environment. So it is not something under your control. You have to cope with that. So the four main areas are the extreme volatility of some collectors, and traffic got by some collectors, and basically those are the spikes. Right. So when you've got an appliance with a lot of spikes, this puts the appliance on a stress, because some spikes may be just too much. Right. So you need to manage that. So there is the second one. It's when your environment is not really balanced. So you've got overloaded collector and underloaded collectors. Right. So this is no good, because even underloaded collector it's no good, because it's a maybe it's not, it could be used to relieve some overloaded collector, or maybe it's just not needed. You don't need them. So it helps in terms of footprints for the management of Guardium, and it helps on the total cost of ownership, right? So after that, another source of stress is when the volumes grow, and we experience that, right? So your environment is okay, and 2 months later is not anymore, right? Because you've got additional volumes. You need to detect that. You cannot assume stability, and so you need to. And when you start reaching the limit, you get additional stress, and it's not necessarily good. And so the last one is when you went over the limit, right, and you've been outscored. So your database reaches 90%, so sniffer is restarting and respawning constantly. Those are the main two issues you don't want to deal with, because it's pretty bad. So it has impact on the collection of traffic. You may lose data. You may put other collectors under stress. You really want to avoid that, right? And if you take care in a proactive manner of those three ones above, you should not get there, or only very exceptionally, which is okay, because exception occurs, right? So sorry about that, but back to this diagram. So this is really, it shows the boom as really the central location and source of information for the performance of your collectors. And what we do, it's the collector we set up the collectors to send those data, buffer usage monitor data, to a folder on a Linux box, on which we've got also metadata, and I'm going to show a little bit what those metadata are about the collector. And we have this is really a context 22 Python programs that merge those two and produce enriched data we put in Elasticsearch, and you can take under Kibana. So why do we use ELK, which is Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, and open source Python programs? It's because ELK is widely deployed. ELK really takes care of the data engineering part of this thing, and it's very reliable. You don't really have too much to worry about it. So even if you've got in your company it's already using Elasticsearch, you just you piggyback on it. And Elasticsearch as a database or data warehouse is pretty efficient. And Kibana, which is a GUI interface, or user interface, is very versatile and one of the best analytics GUI around. So why we do open source Python? It's because we think being open source is a kind of give you some assurance that you're going to do that it's done properly. So you put yourself under scrutiny, and therefore it helps bringing up the quality of the programs. So regarding, we are looking at the cloud version, and it's under development, and we're probably going to do that with Google Cloud Platform. So now let's do a quick demo of this point. So this is Elasticsearch, and this is Kibana, right? So first, I'm going to show you quickly what we mean by enriching metadata, right? So for example, this is where it's stored, because actually we do that. We have that in Elasticsearch as well. So but here you can see the collector name, but here we say what CM it's reporting to. Here, this is a little bit based on our practice and recommendations, and it's better to assign only one type of traffic to a collector. So I know there are different school of thought here, but it's to process and parse the traffic, like here, right? Here, so the sniffer needs a specific parser, and it has to be put in memory. So it's better if you focus on just one. So it's why here. But if you don't want to do this that way, it's also because this is the beauty of NoSQL. It can be anything as metadata, as long as basically you provide the collector name, right? So as a result, it's the content of one enriched stuff. So here you can recognize the buffer usage monitor if you are a little bit used to it, right? And so the main variable I've mentioned, but here it's not on this one. So sorry, this one has not been enriched. So I need to find one that has been enriched. So city to enrich. Okay. Right, you see here, right? So those are, when it's enriched, this is what you get, right? So we're going to do, for example, this one, right? So when you do this one, but at some point here, you got the metadata, you see? And these can be anything. So now we can do, so this is just raw visibility. So there is the dashboards, and I'm going to show you a few of them, what you can do with those enriched data. So let's start with this one. Yeah, this one is good. I like it because here you can see the metadata we play with. So here it's per type of traffic. Here it's is it production or non-prod, and here it's is it a primary or failover, right? And for example, for the MySQL disk usage, which is really a easy to use indicator, right? So here it gives you a little bit a view of how your system is loaded, right? And so this is by ordering alphabetic order, but now you can also do by from the fullest to the least used, and this shows you where you may have a problem, right? Clearly here AD it's too much, and where you have room, right? And you can even, for example, you said I'm going to look at MS SQL, and I'm not interested. I don't want to redirect some traffic from a very loaded collector to any other collector. It has to be a primary as well. I don't want to redirect to a failover, right? So now you've got this list, right? And here, this is your choices, right? And it helps quite a bit. So I'm going to just show another one. So for example, this one. Then same thing here, you can see the different metadata we play with, and here you can see for each of those variables I mentioned before, right? You can see the data. So here we're gonna go a little bit, right? And you see. And this is by collectors, right? So you can compare your collectors, and here you can see that this one is probably one that got quite a bit of traffic, and it's a good indication of and this is a time series, and it gives you the evolution over time, right? So so this is the analyzer queue length, right? So when you've got quite variability, right? So for example, let's look at this one in particular. So 89, so you see, and it's okay. So it's you have just one spike, and it probably did it. So you can also so it's this one, I think it's so here, yeah, okay. So this one is something here. I'm gonna unselect and select again. So for example, this time I'm gonna look at MongoDB, right? And I'm gonna look at primary, and I'm gonna look at production, right? And here I've got for everything, right? So it's really global for the whole thing. So different variables, right? And so I'm going to get rid of this one because it's a top and makes because there are scales. And you can see now you've got a profile of activity, right? And so this is by visualizing the environment that way, you get a better sense of the state of your environment. So now, now the question is the boom is not enough because it doesn't have a breakdown per collectors, per agents. So where do you get the information about breakdown of volumes per agent? It's in the DAM data, right? So we have a functionalities, and because this is for EDA, it stands for exploratory data analysis, which is the same thing as threat hunting, right? And where we collect and process part of what is called full SQL in Guardium, right? And we enrich them, we upload them in Elasticsearch, and then we take them under Kibana, right? And this becomes your exploratory data analysis tool, and which allows you to perform threat hunting. We can reuse and piggyback on this feature for providing and getting volume information on agents, right? So how we do that? We do that way. So here you can recognize a Guardium environment. And here at the bottom you got the databases with database servers with the different databases on it. So, and the agent and the databases communicate with the clients right here. And the agent captures the traffic, right, and sends it to the primary or failover depending upon the state, right? And now it's after parsing, it gets into the MySQL database on the collector, and we leverage a data mart Guardium has, and we get this data mart data into our ELK instance. We enrich the same way as here, right? The same type of process, and we enrich, and it's now available, right? So you can really do two things with one set of data, right? With the full SQL data, you can start doing threat hunting, and you get management information, performance information. So I'm going to first show you how to use the full SQL for performance management, and then for threat hunting, right? So the last thing, there is a challenge with using the full SQL. It's the volumes, right? So when you use the boom, the buffer usage monitor, it's 1440 records a day, right? Because there are 1440 minutes in a day, right? But when you play with full SQL, it's a different game, because now you are talking about thousands or tens of thousands, if not more, record per day, right? And therefore, in terms of volume, it's also why it's a good opportunity to use this feature for more than Guardium management and performance management. Then let's go to a quick demo of these. So we've got a dashboard, right, which is this one, right? So here I need to change the, right? Okay, so here, yeah, okay, so I'm gonna, here, this is something you've got some information with some metadata, especially those ones, right? And you can have an idea of over time the amount of traffic. So you've got an idea also the breakdown, right? Per type of database traffic you receive, right? And the volumes, right? And then what you can do is you can say, okay, so let's see what I've got for you need to know for MS SQL, right? And you know that it's just this collector, right? And it's a breakdown between agent is there, right? So, and you have that as well here, right? So now you are kind of well informed to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to just remove this agent and put it on another collector, or is it that big one you want for example, for a new collector, right? It's how you can you can make those decisions. So now let's look at what you can how you can use those false SQL data to perform threat hunting, right? So yeah, we're gonna go back here. And here, so first, yeah, I'm gonna show you the type of data we use to enrich, right? Well, okay, so it's so I showed you collectors. Why is it? There is a little problem. Oh, yeah, right. It doesn't. So what a filter here. Okay, so here I showed you the collectors. So, but we enrich with let's start with that, right? So for each node, node we see in the traffic, we have a corresponding set of metadata. For example, here for this machine, which is server 1, and which is a database, right? Because there are other that are, this one is a laptop, you see. So, and you've got additional information. For example, pretty important, the environment it should belong to, right? So the organization, if you need to figure out if it's who you need to contact, right? So, and if it's related to other database and therefore collectors managing that organization. And you can even do a grouping per organization. But all those data are not in the raw traffic, right? It's really something you need to bring from outside, right? One way or another, and you merge those data with the traffic itself, and after that it makes much more sense. And there is also the DB user. So I'm just going to show one. Here it's a service account, right? This DB user here it's a service account. It's even a shared account. So it's probably need to be careful with the password on it if it's user's password. And you've got a contact for these accounts, which can be very handy because a lot of administrators spend time trying to retrieve contact information. Here it's you put them here and it's constantly present, right? You don't have to do any research. So now let's have a quick look at yeah, let's first it's going to be short because like Omar mentioned, we going to have a specific presentation on this topic next month, right? And we're going to cover stuff more detail, metadata, time series, confidence level computation. Yeah, you're going to see predictive analytics, anomaly detection, outliers, and more. So, and here it's really just to give you a little sense of it. So this is here it is, right? So here, in those two charts or tables, you can see it's a mix of metadata and raw data. So this is raw data. This is what you get in the traffic, and this one as well. So the client, right, and the server. But the rest, and the amount of traffic record extracted, so the record affected, right? So, but the rest is metadata. Right, it's metadata. And it's for example here the client, is it prod, non-prod, the type of servers, and the client is an application server, right? It could be a database server, and it's and this is important to know, right? Because maybe when you go to database, it's or maybe more to go from application server to database, you must have some security involved, and do you have it or not, right? So, and the type of select, it gives, because all selects are not the same, right? There are some selects that have some limitation in terms of what you amount of traffic you record, you extract, right? And so in your select, if there is no where clause, if there is no top, if there are no limit, if there is nothing, right? So you extract maybe huge amount of data, right? And those ones are more dangerous from a confidentiality standpoint if they extract sensitive data than selects that have a top 10. Right, so on top 10, it means that it just wants so 10 records. 10 records, it is not going to put the company at, and the people whose data you extract at much risk, right? So and so here's something for the DB user. You've got some metadata that can help you quite a bit figuring out what's going on. Okay, so now we've seen that. So the last part is actually we show because we know that customers struggle with aggregators, right? So and there are some big products like Guardium Insight and Synergy, which are replacement for them. But some companies, sometimes it's too big for them, or they are still in the process of figuring out this thing. And we think that there is a spot not to replace the big product because they've got their value, but to kind of offer at least a temporary solution while waiting for the big product to come. And it's a lightweight and small footprint alternative to collectors. So it's based on the data in the DAM data, right? So the component of the DAM data. So Guardium produces and collects 4 types of data, right? The session, and who connects and when. So instance, what they did, and the SQLs, and in a grouped manner. I'm not going to get into those details, right? But exceptions, so also fail login and the SQL error generated, which can be interesting. And the full SQL, which is really the individual SQL when the policy decides to record them. Right, so Guardium has features to extract those data separately using data mart, right? And you can transfer that to a data warehouse. So what is your ID? Or ID, it's you don't need to have all those data all the time online. This is really the idea. So you've got basically a lot of companies that need to be able to show and present data to auditors, right? And it's a very important part, but it's not really all the time. It's quite rare, actually. So you can wonder and ask yourself if it's necessarily a good idea and efficient and economically to put online constantly a huge amount of data, which is used only rarely when the auditor's request comes. So, and this is where we tried this difference between hot and warm. So warm means that some of those data will be kept unloaded into the unloaded with into ElasticSearch or our data warehouse, and we upload them only when there is a request from auditors. So that way, the data warehouse is not overloaded, is not because a data warehouse, even when it's a good technology like ElasticSearch, it's still a lot of work. So if you've got, instead of that, your data dormant, right, and just with a procedure to upload them when you need it, right, so this is warm, right? And our claim, it's equivalent to having the data really in a hot online fashion. So hot online would be something like that, right? So the four type of data just thrown into a Elasticsearch instance or some data warehouse, and you've got a lot of data with all the management it occurs. So an alternative, right, lightweight alternative would be to extract the same way those four stuff, but you keep instance and exception and full SQL basically as files waiting to be processed, right? And you process only two of those data. You process part of full SQL, and you do that, you extract part of full SQL, and you enrich, and this is really your thread hunting stuff, right? And since session is small, it's worth while, I mean, to enrich them as well. So you end up in a permanent state where you've got full SQL and session, I mean, part of full SQL and session. So it's really the hardcore of what you need to for thread hunting. And when an auditor requests some data, so you start processing the rest of the data, right? So in this case, but it's going to be limited, right? So it's going to be just for a period of time, just for a user, just for a server, just for, and you can actually, you're going to upload what is needed for the auditors, and maybe a bit more, just to be safe, right? And you end up, you enrich, because this is useful, and you put that in another ELK instance or index, and this is smaller, right? And it's very easy and fast to access for auditors. There is no, and you can get rid of it once they are done. So you alternate between this state and this one. So it's constantly like that, right? So yeah, it's constantly like that, right? So in terms of data, just to the state of the data, what is warm and what is hot. So the collectors, they generate the 4 blocks plus the boom, right? And you put hot, right, online constantly, the session enriched, the partial full SQL, right, you need for thread hunting, and the enriched boom, right? And when there is a request by auditors, then you activate the import of some data from those 3 months, right? And you get, and this is whether actually hot here. No way I put it warm. It's hot as well. It becomes hot, right? And this is what is needed by auditors, and they've got that and that, right? So the main thing, it's we claim, this is our claim. So the warm data, so this is equivalent to extracting what is needed for auditors from a huge data warehouse. And it's much less work, right? This is our claim. So it's why we piggyback on the feature for Guardium management, right? And here you've got you end up with a management of Guardium, which is which is simpler and more efficient and put you at least in a good position if you are wondering what will be your next move in terms of getting the big guys in terms of data warehouse and applications like Sonargy of Guardium Insight. So this takes us to the end of these presentations. And if you want to contact us, send info at context22. This is more for Omar. Support, it's more for me. And we've got a website still under construction. So be nice with us, right? And that's it. So now we can go back to a few words from Omar.
Yeah, there are some questions. Can you answer the
yeah,
question?
right. Okay, so I can see the questions. Yeah. Can we send also Guardium data? Like, yeah, but this is basically I answer this question, right? It's yeah, definitely. So this is you're gonna see if you attend the session next month on threat hunting. You don't need all those stuff. Well, first of all, violation. This is generated by the policy, not by the traffic. Right? It's your policy flagging an event as a policy violation, right? But the event itself is either in session, in full SQL or SQL, right? Or exception, because here you don't mention exception, but basically this is part of it. But yeah, definitely. But we suggest to do that way, right? To do that way here, right? So I'm gonna, right. We suggest to do that way. Rather that, because if you want to do that, this is more for Sonargy and Guardium Insight, right? But it's a lot of, if you want something a little bit more lightweight, it's gonna be looking more like that. Then Mohamed, does it answer your question?
You're on mute, Mohammed.
You're on mute. It's okay. Bon, this is your next question about UEBA. This is a great question, okay? And I'm not going to make too much comment on this. So I would say, please attend. If you want to know what we do, so in a short way, I would say, so UEBAs are conceptually a good idea. So there are some issues and questions about execution and what they are in particular, right? So, for example, you may know that Sonargy has a lot of them, but they clearly said that it's a lot of tweaking, right? So and the reason why we can discuss that, but it says UEBA still generates a lot of false positive anyway, enough to require tweaking, which you can achieve by way of enrichment. So you can see the first article in my series on LinkedIn I made on enrichment and was commented by the creator of Guardium and Sonargy, Ron Ben Nathan, discussing exactly that. So, but basically, yeah, enrichment is the solution. So what they do now, it's so UEBA produce whatever they produce, then you enrich the output, right? And now to figure out the false positive, it's much easier. And the information is kind of feedback into the UEBA, and the UEBA can be a bit more efficient. And we think that there are other ways to do that, right? Where you can, there are a lot of algorithms available in data science where basically you avoid generating false positives, right? Because false positives is a lot of work, right? And I work in IPS, IDS, you know, intrusion protection system and intrusion detection system. We had a lot of false positive, but it was just for ourselves, right? So we didn't have to present those false positive to anyone, right? It was just us, security people, handling that. In database, it's a bit different. If you find something, right, you need to talk with the database owner, the application owner, and if it's a false positive, it's no good. Can context work on database audit trade data without Guardium? Yeah, well, it's it can, as long as we receive the traffic, right? So we need to receive the traffic and get it in a sense in that way. But yes, it's yeah. So there are some issues with audit trail, which is the quality of the audit trail provided by the database, because this now it's a vendor specific. So I can tell you that, for example, Guardium, MongoDB, you need actually to complement the audit native audit logging by some by data stored in a log file. So if you want really to see the command as it was executed, it's not in the native log auditing. So if you send just a native auditing log, I mean it's really sketchy, right? It's you don't have much information. So, and in case of Guardium, it's anyway, some time ago, it was not parsed, right? It was a little bit raw. So what is really great with Guardium and is this piece, right? So what would be nice, it's really the data coming from the audit trail to get there and to go through the parser, which for Mongo was not the case, right? For Guardium. But yes, definitely it's a tendency, right? It's a tendency. But you okay, is there a saving of log size after receiving forwarded data from Guardium or audit trail? Bon, it's more, it's our two aspects. There is a data engineering aspect and there is a functional aspect, right? So let's start with the functional aspect. If you go with this way, yeah, you save room, because all those data here, they are CSV file, but they are compressed. So you have a small part. Now, when you've got that into Elasticsearch, now this becomes a data engineering stuff. So, which is, you need to configure Elasticsearch in a way that it's going to be room efficient. And this is where we think it's good to go with a good, I mean, a standard product like Elasticsearch, but it can be replaced by other stuff, right? Then we are looking at other integration, like even use MS SQL and Power BI or MongoDB and their analytics GUIs. And what you really need, it's this stack of, you need a data warehouse and you need an analytics GUI, right? It's really crucial to have the analytics GUI, because the analytics GUI allows you to do those aggregation. You got a huge amount of data and you crunch them into a few meaningful outcome, right, or output that you can use, right? Because I mean, what are you going to do with 20,000 records, right? You are not going to do anything. You are human, right? You need something more compact, right? And this is what the analytics GUI gives you, right? And an analytics GUI to work well must rely on an efficient data warehouse. This is what you've got with Elasticsearch, but you can get that for other ways, right? For example, if really the company doesn't have Elasticsearch, then starting with a new product, it maybe they've got SQL and Power BI, right? then let's piggyback on those as well. And it's we think it's better to be kind of data warehouse agnostic, right? And analytics GUI agnostic. We did the first integration with Elasticsearch because we started there, and it's really great, but it's definitely not the only way. Any other question? Thank you, Murad, for those questions. They are very meaningful. Omar, do you want to say a few words in conclusion?
Yeah, it's just a question to Mohammed. Is there you see the opportunity for training and supporting in the Middle East, you know, on IBM Guardium?
You mean by that, is there a professional service or training for customers or something like that?
Yes.
I think in the Middle East, the Guardium market is very distributed at many customers in the Middle East. Like in Egypt or Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates, for example, there is many customers of Guardium. And the Guardium implementation is not fully tuned.
It's not what?
It's not tuned 1%.
Okay, not tuned. It's not tuned properly. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I don't know if we can do that. If you can put us in contact with
many of customers, I think they are interested in reporting, visualization, to make a value from Guardium implementations.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. So have a good day. Rest of the day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.